Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we will be talking about Rezolve AI and the breaking news that just came out today from the CEO. There's actually two pieces of news that we need to discuss in today's video. We're obviously going to cover the flash crash that took place after markets closed yesterday. Rezolve went from trading at a high of the day yesterday at $7.37 to a low like 30 minutes after the bell closed yesterday at $4.50 per share. And then it went right back to hit a new high at $7.54. And now today it's at $6.78. You've recovered all of that crash. What happened, what caused it, and what do you need to know? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to get into. At the back end of this video, we will discuss what happened in markets today, broadly speaking. There was one big catalyst, if we can call it that, that did move market. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, and check out that link down below in the description of this video if you want to come invest in these AI opportunities like Rezolve alongside us before anyone else knows about these stocks. Well, that is the place to do so. Before we cut off recruitment, I want a group of stock market assassins that we can all know on a personal level. I don't want a group of just thousands of people in there that, you know, it doesn't feel personal, right? I want you guys to know me. I want to know you guys. Like, I want to make money together. Obviously, that's not a guarantee. That's not a recommendation. You could lose all of your money. Contact financial advisor before making an investment decision. Blah, blah, blah. You get the disclaimers. Don't be a jackass. Let's get into today's episode. Okay, now I want to discuss the flash crash that you've seen yesterday, okay? The sell-off happened for no reason. There was no news that came out. Nothing happened. To me, it seemed like a perhaps low liquidity sell-off, okay? There was some volume that came in here. The stock was really overbought. And without just pointing fingers to manipulation, I've heard people speculate that there was a lot of stop losses hit at the same time and the selling just flooded the stock. For a minute there, the stock was down about 24%. I've never in my 8 years investing seen a stock, momentum or not, go down 24% and then recover that, almost all of it, within an hour or two. I've never seen that before without there being some kind of news, which there wasn't any news. Nothing happened. Stock went from $7 to $4.50 briefly on zero news. Now, it smells like manipulation to me. It smells like a fund wanted Rezolve in the $4, in the $5, and not at $7. That's what it smells like to me. Just because of how violent and aggressive it was, the sell-off, for no reason. Maybe it was just a retail kind of panic moment, but it did present an opportunity. Maybe one of the last great buying opportunities that we're going to get in the stock for a very long time. Because once we get to October 1st, I think everything is going to change for Rezolve AI. That's when I think the stock starts its rally to $20 per share, and inevitably higher than that. In my view, next year, you could see the stock anywhere from $50 to $100 per share. Stock is currently at $6.77 per share. So later on into this video, I will share my position as well. Did I panic sell? Did I do any of that? Short answer is no. Okay. I stress this all the time on this channel. You need to have a deep understanding of why you're invested in a company, what the company is doing, the opportunity of the company. You need to understand these things on a deep level, or you're going to get a random 24% sell-off that smelled like manipulation and freak out and panic and sell your stock. And then you're going to be like, oh my gosh, what happened? It all recovered and I just sold at a loss? or sold, for a 24% discount, you never want to be in that situation. I was honestly laughing. I was saying to my mom and other people that know about this investment I have in Rezolve, easy come, easy go. It's just comical when you get that kind of volatility if you know the company you're investing in. Like, I don't give a rat's ass if this company goes to $2, $3, $4, $5. I don't care. I know where this company is going to be in 6 months, in 12 months. I know the catalyst coming on October 1st. With that said, the RSI on this stock is at 88.36, even after the volatility we've seen in the past 2 days. Stock hit a high of, $7.54 today and a 24-hour low of $4.50. It has been highly volatile. I've said on this channel for a while, while I think October 1st is going to be a huge day and we're going to see, a massive rally, especially following that into the end of this year, stock's probably going to be a $20 to $30 stock by December 31st. Okay, I've kind of upped my opinion on the stock a little bit as retail has started to get more involved in this company, but you're going to see a period of sideways trading. I hope we see a period of sideways trading before October 1st, because if we just go straight up to like $12, $15 a share, something like that, well, that's great in the short term. Some people might like that. October 1st is not going to hit the same. If we're roughly around these levels, if we trade sideways for a period heading into October 1st, that guidance raise on October 1st is likely going to be seen as a much bigger positive catalyst, right? It's almost like we have so many people that are bullish on Rezolve, we don't have enough bears. We need more bears at this point, right? Just my perspective. But again, stock wants to go to 15 before October 1st, something like that. I'm not going to beat myself up over that, right? We're going to make money. We're going to profit. Fine. And honestly, if you can break above 1450, that's going to set the stock into a brand new all-time high and a new trading range overall. Okay. So don't be surprised if that happens before October 1st. There's going to be a lot more positive sentiment and momentum in the stock heading into October 1st. I expect the days and week or two before that date, you're probably going to see the stock go through another leg higher, in my view. Okay, so the news yesterday that Rezolve AI shared on their X account, just to show you how under the radar this company is. It has been over 24 hours now since Rezolve dropped this news, and it only has 63 likes on X. It only has 3,200 views on X. Okay, it says here, Rezolve AI is excited to announce the launch of Visual Search, a transformative capability that allows consumers to point their phone camera at any item and instantly search across a Rezolve-enabled retailer's catalog. So basically, if Nike partnered with Rezolve, you could go to Nike's app on your phone and click on the camera button that Rezolve will offer, take a picture of shoes and pull it up to purchase them, right? Like if you like someone's shoes, you could open the app, take a picture, and boom, you're going to be able to see the shoes they're wearing, right? I think this is potentially a big selling point for a lot of companies to partner with Rezolve. Some big names like Nike, right? Even something like an Amazon, I think this would make a lot of sense to partner with Rezolve on, okay? It could open the door for larger partnerships with other companies. Like maybe Rezolve doesn't get the full partnership with someone like an Amazon, but maybe Amazon partners with Rezolve just for the visual search capability, okay? Now, Amazon's probably going to develop that for themselves at some point, but you get the idea. I think a lot of companies, this is going to appeal to. And it's another way for Rezolve to upsell on the customers they currently have. But I think, again, a big selling point to get more new customers, larger customers into Rezolve's network. And then today, about 5 hours ago, Rezolve posted, this post only has 1,700 views and 35 likes. It says, Rezolve AI is pleased to announce that institutional ownership has now surpassed 10% of its cap table, following a surge of new positions from some of the world's largest and most influential funds, including Citadel, BlackRock, Vanguard, Jane Street, Northern Trust, Man Group, and State Street. We've talked about this on the channel plenty of times. We've looked at the 13F filings. Hell, I still have the tab open somewhere in my 74 tabs open of the 13F filings for Rezolve. This is Tesla. This one is Rezolve. Okay, just green everywhere. Tons of positioning, massive positioning. Now, I'm honestly, I'm not shocked that this ownership is 10%. That's not shocking to me. That's not really new information to me. If you've been a follower of this channel, we know the institutional ownership has definitely grown. We started at about 5% institutional ownership. You can see here the institutional ownership here by month, right? June, July, August, roughly the same. September, this thing blows up, okay? To now institutions owning what? 130 million shares, something like that, if I'm reading these numbers correctly. So yeah, the institutional ownership has definitely blown up because this company went public via a SPAC. So when that happens, firms stay away from SPACs. Okay, they don't even want to talk to you. They don't want anything to do with you. Okay, well, hey, that de-SPACing process is over with. Okay, now firms are taking on positions, and they're all green. Okay, Jane Street bought 343,000 shares, 620% increased their position. Morgan Stanley owns 204,000 shares, increased their position by 152%. Bank of Canada owns a couple hundred shares. Citadel, where's Citadel? They own 150,000 shares. Call position worth 40,000 shares. California State Teachers Retirement System owns 5,700 shares. Susquehanna owns 600,000 shares now of the company, right? UBS Group owns 202,000 shares. Wells Fargo owns 49,000 shares. Bank of America owns 52,000 shares. New York State Common Retirement Fund owns 34,000 shares. You get the idea, okay? JP Morgan owns 44,000 shares, increased their position by 3,303%. BlackRock owns 4.752 million shares, increased their position by 47,422%. Charles Schwab owns 227,000 shares. Vanguard owns 643,000 shares. Citigroup, 32,000 shares. Brown Wealth Management, 200,000 shares. You get the idea. We just spotted this opportunity before all of Wall Street. And we're still, again, in the very, very early days, right? For a lot of companies, a lot more of the stock is owned by Wall Street, right? Owned by institutions. If we look up something like Meta, for an example, institutional ownership in Meta, just, point out a stock here. It says institutional shares, 91.23%. Rezolve is at 10%. Okay, let's do something like Palantir. Okay, what's Palantir's insider ownership? I don't know, so we're just pulling this up together. Institutional ownership in Palantir is 60.41%. It's another smaller. Let's do Bitmine if it should come up. Bitmine Emergent. It's kind of in the same field. Yeah, it doesn't look like they have too many updated filings here, but you get the idea, right? There's very low institutional ownership in the company. As I've talked about before on this channel, it creates an interesting dynamic where you're kind of getting a little bit of a squeeze here. We don't have crazy volume. The volume in Rezolve is 20, 30 million a day. But the thing is, there's not a lot of shares out there freely trading because insiders own about 40% of the shares. And if they're not selling, which with the opportunity they have, the focus this company has right now is incredible. The way that they keep the news flow going, every couple days we're getting something new from the company. I don't think they're selling. Okay, so there's 40% of shares locked up right there. Institutions own 10%. Private companies own at least 14%, almost 15%. Right there, you have 64% of shares that are locked up and owned. A lot of the early investors in Rezolve, especially, like myself, are not selling either, right? It was about 40% ownership by retail. It's hard to say exactly what percentage is like holding steadfast, maybe 50% of that. Maybe you can add another 20% of the float that's holding there. It could be, as I said in the prior video, like 85% of shares that are currently just being held. So when new buyers come in, new retail buyers, new institutions, they're all fighting for maybe 15 to 20% of total shares. There's not a lot of shares out there. It's kind of like very eerily reminiscent to GameStop without the massive short interest, just in the sense of there's a lot of people owning the stock that are not selling, and minus the squeeze factor, which there's about 10% short interest of free float. It's not a real big deal in Rezolve. There's not a lot of shares to go around. So just a little bit of buying pressure, 20 million, 30 million in volume can get the stock to go up 20+% in a day. What do you think happens when there's real momentum around this company? What do you think happens October 1st? It explodes. Once there's a big catalyst and Wall Street goes, oh my gosh, look at this opportunity. It explodes. What do you think happens when, I think, Nvidia on shares in their 13F filing that they have bought Rezolve? I just have a feeling Nvidia is going to buy Rezolve. They bought Nebius back when I was investing in Nebius. I had a feeling then that Nvidia was going to invest in the company. I kind of have a feeling they're going to invest in Rezolve as well. What do you think happens then when everyone starts hearing about this company and a lot of the float is just locked up in portfolios? It's going to go parabolic. So you think I'm selling now? No. And obviously I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a financial planner. You can prove, who owns what, and we've done that before and blah, blah, blah. This is all well-known information. So in this portfolio, again, just for full transparency's sake, I am not going to commit to, if the stock gets to $30 a share, $25 to $30 a share, I will look at potentially taking some profits on that. That'll be 1,000% return and hold some shares, right? But anytime soon, between now and $30 a share, I don't plan on selling the stock. And if I do, I'll share it with you. But again, I do like to share this because it's easy for someone to say, hey, this stock that's going up recently is I believe going to do well, when you don't have any skin in the game. It's not that credible. Okay. So here's the current position. And when we do get, 24% flash crashes, are you the guy that panics, or do you really believe in the shit you're saying? Right? I believe in the shit I'm saying. When I say I don't plan to sell anytime soon, that I have a deep understanding of this company, I was literally laughing. I was not worried at all. My portfolio was up 15,000 yesterday in this portfolio, a lot of it because of Rezolve. And then in after hours, you're down 20 grand. And you're like, well, easy come, easy go. That's the way that you should think about this. If you're overly emotional in this company, you probably have way too much money invested in the company for your financial situation, okay? But current market value, $87,686. Total return, $51,000. Up 139.44%. Average cost, $2.82. I currently have 13,000 shares still in the company. I still own the same 15 call options for Rezolve 250 calls. Currently going for $425 a piece. They're basically dollar for dollar at this point. So it's basically like having an additional 1,500 shares. Okay. Current value about $6,400. Total return $4,800. After October 1st, with the rally that we get, that's when I'll probably look to exit the options. That's kind of my game plan at this point, if we can call it that. But until then, I don't even plan to sell the options I own. Now, in the trading community portfolio, this is the portfolio that I really use to track the progress in that group. It's up 168% year to date. We're outperforming 99.99% of Wall Street at this point. Check it out, link down below in the description of this video if you would like to. In this portfolio, I have $74,140 invested in the company. Unrealized return, $43,382. Average cost basis, $2.80. Invested for 84 days. Current quantity, 11,000 shares. So I have not reduced any exposure in these two portfolios. And again, as I've said before, this is total 26,300 shares, including the 1,000 shares that I hold in Thinkorswim and the 1,300 shares that I hold in Webull, plus the 1,500 shares in basically like options, but they're dollar for dollar with the stock. So it's just essentially like owning another 1,500 shares. That brings the total to $27,800 times $6.74, where the stock is currently at. That's $187,372 currently invested in this stock. And I believe, again, you're going to be anywhere between $20 and $30 per share by the end of this year. That's my view. I could be wrong on that. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a fortune teller. There's going to be volatility. The stock is technically overbought today. So it's been overbought for a while. Don't be surprised if we get volatility for little to no reason. But the big catalyst is October 1st. But with that said, let's get into some of your broader market moving news today. The CNN Fear and Greed Index today coming in at 55, which is right on the high side of neutral, almost into greed. Market momentum is greed. Stock price strength, extreme greed. Stock price breadth is greed. Put and call options, greed. Market volatility is neutral. Safe haven demand in fear, and junk bond demand currently in extreme fear. Now, in case you guys have missed it, we did get a new AI investor sentiment survey yesterday showing the bears are completely in control of this market. Bearish investors from last week was at 43.4%. Today, 49.5%. Almost 50% of investors are outright bearish. Neutral investors went from 23.9% to 22.5%. So that even fell. Bullish investors fell as well from 32.7% to 28.0%. There's a lot of bears out there. There's a lot of people on the sidelines, a lot of people doubting this market. And that's a good thing if you're bullish. That's a good thing. You want to see that, right? And, well, to me, it just says we have quite a bit of upside from here. Percent of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average, while falling a bit today, has remained at pretty healthy levels. The internals of our markets are holding up, which is a good sign, right? Before a full-blown correction, typically you see the internals of our markets really falter, right? You start to see a lot of stocks decline, you know, smaller cap names decline, average stocks, if you will, decline. Well, the percent of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average down 2.64% today, but sitting at 62.61%. You are on the high side of bull markets we've seen over the past, or markets in general, over the past 5 years. You're on the high side, right? So you're at a very healthy place as far as the internals of our markets today. If we take a look again at what broader indexes are doing today, the Dow is down 0.4%, S&P up 0.06%, NASDAQ up 0.46%, Russell 2000 down 0.78%, but there is a little bit of a risk off move today in the VIX. The VIX is down 1.5%. Now the VIX measures puts and calls over the next 30-day period on the S&P. So if the VIX is down like it is today, that means hedge funds and institutions are feeling a little bit more comfortable with markets. 10-year treasury yields today are up about 5.5 basis points, which is quite a large move for a single day. But we've fallen a lot recently, so you're just giving some of that back. 10-year treasury yields at 4.068%. They were recently like 4.25% for a while, 4.2-ish%. So you've fallen a lot recently, and well, now you're just seeing a little bit of a pop there, which is likely helping to contribute to, again, the Russell falling today. The Russell tends to be very correlated to treasury yields. Now, oil is up 0.3% today, but sitting at $62.58 per barrel, which is a really low level overall. The big data that we had today was the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey. Headline number came in at 55.4. The expectation was around 58. So you missed on the headline number. 5-year inflation expectations were expected at 3.5%. They came in at 3.9%. So yeah, not great there. Consumer expectations came in at 51.8 versus consensus estimates of 54.9. So that came in, again, a little bit worse than expected. Current conditions came in at 61.2, almost matching expectations of 61.3, but that's a little bit of a miss. And 1-year inflation expectations came in at 4.8%, unchanged from last month, but the expectation was 4.6%. Now, here's what I got to tell you about this. It doesn't matter. The Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey is the biggest joke in the world in terms of the markets actually caring about this. Okay, it's a joke. There's like 200 people that take this survey. 80% of them are Democrats that obviously lean against the current administration, right? Like Republicans expect deflation. Average folks that are not political expect roughly 2% inflation, like pretty normal levels of inflation. And then Democrats are at like 7% inflation, right? So it skews the numbers, and it's a very political survey. Sure. Is it having an impact on markets today? Of course. You can tell it is. But is it something that you should factor into your investment decisions? Absolutely not. It's basically worthless. Marco Rubio's State Department will ban any foreigner from entering the country who celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk online, per the Deputy Secretary of State, Chris Laniu. UBS out today says they expect the S&P 500 to reach 6,800 by mid-2026, which is kind of wild considering yesterday they said they had a 93% chance of a U.S. recession in the next 12 months. So I don't know how those things go hand in hand, but apparently they do. It says the Fed to cut 25 basis points next week. JP Morgan's Michael Feroli expects the Fed to lower rates by 25 basis points next week to 4.20% to 4.25%. He sees 2 or 3 dissents favoring a bigger cut, but none for holding steady. The dot plot should still show one more cut beyond 2025. Donald Trump says he'll send the National Guard to Memphis, Tennessee next. So let me know your thoughts on all of this down below in the comment section. Hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.